Good afternoon, fam. I hope all of you had a wonderful weekend. Just wanted to interrupt your day real quick. I got an update on the Nolan Wells case. In case you missed it or you haven't seen it, there is a clip going around on social media from an interview with one of the white boys who was on the boat with Nolan Wells named Warren. Warren decided to run his mouth and bump his gums, even though he lawyered up. We're on a podcast called the Officer Tatum Show. They call him Batum Tatum because he's a jigaboo who was not for us. Just FYI. But anyway, take a look at this clip and see what he had to say since he wanted to talk about his so-called best friend.
Like there was just a couple boats looking for Nolan. There was planes and helicopters and, everybody. So.
And then after this, obviously they didn't find Nolan that day.
Right.
And so what was your reaction like when you heard the news, or how did you hear the news that they found Nolan's body?
Well, the next day, it got to be about 1 o'clock on July 5th. And I was like, my mind started to turn. I was like, man, if he's not awake yet, like, where is he? Like, I got very, very worried. And, I was with my buddy Brooks the next day, and we're driving, and my buddies were texting my group chat. They were like, hey, listen. And then I got a phone call from my buddy Trace, and he was like, hey, man, they just found his body. And I was like, I wanted to have hope, but it was really, really hard to have hope when they haven't found your buddy in the last 2 days. And, but there's still a little bit of hope there, like maybe, he's not gone and maybe, he's okay. But my reaction was just, I was with my buddy Brooks and I broke down. I mean, I haven't experienced death a lot, but especially with someone I'm as close with as Nolan. And I mean, I broke down, and I sat there on my buddy Brooks' shoulder and I cried, and I was upset. I made a couple phone calls to my buddies and checked up on my buddies because, I care about my buddies too. I mean, like, we're all experienced this. Like, we all realized at the same time. We all heard the news at the same time. Like, he's gone, and so it was really, really hard on me. I mean, I've never experienced something like this, and it was traumatic. I mean, I could tell you where and when I was there, when I got that phone call, where I was. And I just remember, like, it was insane. Like, I can't even put into words how upset.
Lies, lies, and more lies. We see through the bullshit. Now, if you pay close attention to this clip, you could clearly see the red flags as he was talking in this rehearsed interview. Yes, this was very rehearsed. The first thing that caught my attention, I don't know if y'all caught it, was when he kept repeating himself saying, my buddies, me and my buddies, blah, 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 blah. Then, if you notice, you look at his eye movement. When people look around the room and they can't stay focused on the interviewer, that's a telltale sign of lies. You can't even keep a straight face. Then on top of that, you have no emotion whatsoever. When people are very emotionless and they don't show any type of sympathy or empathy, when they lose a very close friend of theirs, so they say, you would be boohoo crying, wouldn't you? I mean, think about it for a second. He lost his best friend, Nolan, right? If you really were a best friend or a very close friend at that, you would really be very emotional talking about this. I mean, even I, for example, can say that because when I lost my best friend last year, I was very emotional talking about it. Hell, I still am today. I can barely say a few words about it because it's very hard for me to talk about, the short time that I had to spend with her whenever we hung out. And I had just met her in person for the very first time last year when I moved to Virginia. But see, with Warren, that's his name, because I kept saying Wyatt. I had to keep correcting myself. Warren Hudson, that's the boy's name. See, Warren, you messed up. You FAFO'd on yourself. You fucked around and found out real fast. And I'm going to tell you why. Because one, anybody who's got any type of common sense, who lawyered up, wouldn't be running their gums on a podcast without their lawyer being present. So that was red flag number one. Why was he running to that man's podcast? If you are not familiar with the segment or the nature of the Officer Tatum Show, the podcast that he was sitting on with that black man talking, I found out that podcast is a very racist rhetoric podcast. Yeah, even though the host is black, don't let him fool you. He's not for the people. He's not part of the collective. He don't care about black folks. I'm saying that right now. Because when I heard the things that man said about our people as a whole, I said, oh, you wanted him. Yeah, he wanted MAGA. Yeah. So for him to sit up on a very radicalized MAGA podcast, pretty much was what he did. That just told me everything I needed to know. Guilty. Yes, guilty. Now, there are a lot of mixed reviews about this interview clip that he released. I believe you can watch the full interview on Officer Tatum's YouTube channel. I think it's like an hour long. I haven't watched the full interview in its entirety, but I do plan on looking at it and coming back to it to see it if I missed anything to take more notes. But what I know from this clip, there's a lot of holes in his story that ain't adding up, I found out. So according to social media, and an honorary mention before I begin, shout out to Secret Service Sam. Oh my goodness. That brother right there is another brother from another mother. He's a white man that is a comedian, podcaster, but he is actually using his platform to follow the Nolan Wells case. Like when I say that man be on it and he be dropping news like every hour on the hour about any little update related to this case, oh, he's on top of it. That's why I said, man, he's definitely an ally of the black community. He's definitely for us. I like that dude. But yeah, when I looked at an update from Secret Service Sam's page the other night, because I was up all night looking at different videos and analyzing different things, he said the same thing. He said that there are a lot of holes in Warren's story. He gave two conflicting answers versus the original story that they were given to the public. You see, when they lawyered up, they never said anything. You know, they erased their messages and all that good stuff. But one of the boys' stepmothers, who happened to be a judge named Ashley Cole, did a Facebook essay post trying to defend them boys by saying Nolan wanted to stay back on the island, blah, blah, blah. And they went ahead and left him behind because he was with some girl. Well, according to Warren now, Warren's saying that they're worried about him because they didn't hear from him the next day and they thought they would hear from him by now. First of all, you just told on yourself. If you paid attention very closely what he said at the very beginning, we thought Nolan would be awake by now, and we were starting to get worried since we didn't hear from him the next day. And we were on the boat, and we were doing this, and we were doing that, da-da-da-da-da. Who was all on the boat? Explain that. Who was all on the boat besides you and the other white boys? Yeah, there's a lot of deception in this interview clip. And the thing that really bothers me is how comfortable these little Peckerwoods are. Yeah, I'm gonna call them Peckerwoods. I'm calling them a name because they were too chicken to come out at first when it first happened around July 4th when he went missing. But now they starting to be bold by hopping on these random ass podcasts and doing interviews with TMZ and giving conflicting stories. And you see how he tried to pawn off the victim bullshit by saying, well, Trayston this and Trayston that. Trayston is the black guy I told y'all about who did an interview with TMZ the one that said he was one of Nolan's childhood best friends, but then Nolan's parents was like, we don't even know Trayston. He's never even been to our house. So when the parents said they weren't even aware of Trayston's presence, he felt offended. So, yeah. And I just thought it was funny how the white boy tried to pawn off the victim blaming on Trayston. And Trayston wasn't even on the boat. He was on the island, yes, but he wasn't on the boat. See, that's the thing. He's trying to incriminate other people that are not affiliated with the people that was on that boat. That's what he was doing. And I think that podcast host, that Officer Tatum guy, is trying to build up a defense case for them white boys. I think that's what's happening. And he also did an interview with Trayston. That's another big news flash. We'll be dropping that later. Yeah, the whole thing is just messed up. The whole thing is just a bunch of bullshit. It's just smoke and mirrors. He's just literally trying to save his ass. I'm gonna put it that way to you straight. I'm giving it to you straight. He's trying to save his ass. He's trying to save his other white buddies' ass. That's who his buddies are. That he kept saying, my buddies, my buddies. Yeah, he wouldn't say their names, but we know who the hell you were talking about. We're not dumb. See, social media is so damn good. They piecing this case together one by one. And then I saw another update that I'm going to drop a little bit later too, because it's a lot that I have not shared, and it's a lot that I'm still breaking down into clips. There was audio released. Remember when I told y'all, I think sometime last week, there was audio released about the boat issue. So they said when they called the Coast Guard, or whoever called the Coast Guard. Well, I found out that somebody went into a studio and scrubbed that audio to make sure that they could dissect all the words that were said in that audio. See, mainstream media ain't gonna show this shit, but whoever leaked the actual audio that was dissected in the studio, that told me everything I needed to know. So basically what ended up happening was they had some kind of IT expert guru break down the transcript that was from that Coast Guard call that they called when they said that they needed a tow because the boat was malfunctioning, right? Well, here is the problem. When they called the dispatch and they broke down the whole transcript of all the words that were said in the very beginning, allegedly, because we cannot confirm yet until they actually say it, because Ben Crump hasn't confirmed it either. Allegedly, you can hear Nolan's name being shouted out. They were shouting, Nolan, wake up, in the audio. And they were shouting, is he dead? And is he this, or is he unalived? Like, it was a lot. But you'll have to hear the audio for yourself to see what I'm talking about. And then you're going to be like, oh, damn. But yeah, it's a lot. But I just thought it was very interesting how these chicken boys, Peckerwoods, decided to come out the bushes now and sit on podcasts and talk. But see, this is the only white boy that's talked. The other white boys been quiet. I ain't heard from none of the other ones. They've been real silent. But this is the only one who broke their silence. But yeah, I just thought it was very funny how he sat on this man's podcast trying to defend himself. That's pretty much what he's doing. He's trying to defend himself. But here's the problem. You incriminated yourself. Congratulations, idiot. And I'm going to tell you how he can incriminate himself. He didn't say allegedly in none of his statements. He didn't say nothing about his representation with his lawyer. Nothing. And that's what made me smile the most, because when you sit on someone's podcast, you know that can be entered in as evidence, right? As criminal behavior. So what's probably going to end up happening, hopefully, fingers crossed, now that he's decided to run his dumb ass mouth, is the defense team or the plaintiff or whoever, I don't know what it's called in the case of a grand jury, but The plaintiffs in this case would be Nolan Wells' parents and their legal team, Ben Crumpenham, versus literally the state of Mississippi, because that whole state is so corrupt. But basically, if they wanted to enter this as evidence relating to suspicious behavior to show conflicting statements, they can enter this in as evidence to a grand jury. That's the worst part. So yeah, keep running your mouth. We want you to keep bumping your gums on these podcasts, because the more you talk, the more evidence we build against you. Because it just really baffles me how bold they are to run their mouths and talk on these podcasts like they're not going to get in trouble, like it's not going to incriminate people. Well, people fail to understand what goes on the internet stays on the internet, and the internet is forever. And they could pull every single transcript from every little podcast you talk to and run your mouth on. So you can't ever say you never talked to them. They can pull it. Now that we have video footage of what someone said, and they can't go back and say they never said it because it's right there. It's all recorded on the internet. You're screwed, basically. But anyway, I just thought that was a very important piece of evidence to share with you guys as far as the Nolan Wells case. But I think now that more people are talking, I think they're going to get closer to closing this case. Hopefully with a positive ending. We'll see. Now, the other bad news I forgot to mention, is that the district attorney, aka the DA down there in Mississippi, decided to seal Nolan Wells' records. So if anybody needs a copy of the autopsy from Mississippi, guess what? It's sealed by the DA. Why did the DA seal the records? I don't know. But I think she did the shit on purpose to make it harder for the legal team for Ben Crump to prove their case. That Mississippi is full of corruption, obviously. But yeah, it's a lot of nonsense happening right now, and it's a lot of new updates that I have yet to post. I've just been trying to pace myself on this channel to make sure I don't bombard y'all with so much stuff with, the justice stuff and the Nolan Wells case and all these other cases I keep coming across. I just felt like maybe if I give you guys a good mixture of comedy and then a little dose of reality, so that way it's not too crazy for anybody to handle, it's a good blend. You know what I mean? Because if I wanted to, I could have dropped all these clips in a day if I really wanted to. But I'm not going to bombard y'all like that. I think that's just wrong. I think that's a little overboard to bombard you guys with 1,000 clips. So what I'm trying to do is migrate them into so few clips, so that way it's not too crazy for y'all to really look at back to back to back. And I'm scheduling them as we speak on different days. So that way it's not so bad for everyone to catch up on. You know what I mean? And plus, I don't want to overwhelm you guys with a lot of information, because I know a lot of people, they get tired of, looking at people's channels. And when they get overwhelmed with so much information, it's kind of a turn off. And I don't want to turn nobody off from my channel either. You know what I mean? But if y'all want me to bombard you, feel free to let me know. But I'm going to do it in a respectable manner to where I schedule these every other hour on the hour, or every other day, so it's not so sporadic. You know what I mean? But y'all let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments. I'm going to stop rambling because I pretty much said what I had to say, and I'm going to let y'all do the rest in the comments below.